Bring in Murman Margvelashvili for more analysis. He is the director of the think tank World Experience for Georgia, and he joins us now live from the Georgian capital, Tbilisi. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on the program. Now, we heard from the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen saying the bloc wants Ukraine to become a member of NATO. And you have to really look back into the history of why Ukraine hasn't become a member yet to figure out the likeliness of it ever happening from this point forward.
In 2008, both Ukraine and Georgia were promised in Bucharest summit were promised the way to, and they were promised that they will become the members of NATO at some point, but there was not given the definitive path for this membership. And Georgia has already suffered for that indecision. Many analysts are telling that that was a mistake. There should have been a more clear pathway for these countries to join NATO, and it would create some kind of a shelter against the dangers that we're seeing now. At this point now, we are in such uncertain situation that there is no visibility of compromise between the sides on Russia and Ukraine side. Mm-hmm. So one of them is definitely going to win, and then the situation will be changing completely from today's perspective. So I think that this promise of NATO membership for Ukraine at this point is more of a political declaration of support. It just is to strengthen their will for the fight.
You're saying one side will win over the other, and we are set to see the two sides meet in less than an hour or so for a diplomatic solution, this time being held directly between Ukraine and Russia, the most anticipated meeting really since this conflict began. What do you think the outcome will be?
You know, I would wish there to be a ceasefire, at least, the outcome of this, so that they agree not to have a kind of stop in firing at each other. That would buy some time for all parties to rethink their situations, because on Russian side, it is visible that the plans to have a quick win do not work. On the Ukrainian side, we see an unprecedented mobilization and support. So it would give them the possibility also to think about what on next steps might be discussed with Russia. But as for some decisive decisions, I don't think there will be any, I don't see any space for real definitive compromise at this point.
Right, and these talks are going to be held in Belarus, a country who is pro-Russia and has played a significant role in Russia's advance into Ukraine. Give us some insight into how Belarus has been a key player in this war.
You should probably talk to military experts on this issue, but I would like to emphasize that Belarus as a country is now headed by a person who is very little legitimacy actually in that country, and absolute majority of population that we have seen the protests 2 years from now and last year and so on. So those are not willing to participate. And I have also, we are getting the information that even in security services, the people are not very much willing to engage in this war. So it is actually the play of two dictators, Putin and Lukashenko, and they are dragging the population of their countries on both sides. And I would suggest that we look at those countries not only as represented by those dictators, but represented also by the people of those countries who are definitely opposing and very strongly opposing to this war. Because historically, Ukraine, Belarus, and Russians are very close to each other. There has been never hostility against those. So what is happening now, it is the political games of very top officials of those countries.
And we're seeing more and more sanctions being imposed to stop Russia from attacking by bringing down the country's economy, essentially. How long, rather, will it take for these sanctions to have an effect to the extent where Putin is going to say, hey, it's not worth it anymore? People here are suffering from the economic impact of this war.
Well, unfortunately, there is a great, massive disinformation spread out in Russia, and the years and years, decades of propaganda that has strengthened the possibility of the ruling elite to manipulate people. So I'm afraid that there is a pretty big, reserve of tolerance of the people that will suffer from these sanctions, first of all. So it is hard to say how much time it will take. Definitely there will be a very strong impact on economy, on all spheres of life, but it is very important for the European Union, for the United States and whole progressive mankind, let's say, to keep this grip. But it is also very dangerous because if Putin sees that the situation is getting, for him personally, dangerous, so he may do something unpredicted and go very far.
Right, and Ukraine has launched a case accusing Russia of planning a genocide at the UN's highest court, and we're still waiting to hear from the court in regards to when this hearing will be scheduled. But looking at the events which has led us up to what's happening today, could that be a possibility? Could Russia be planning a genocide here?
Initially, I'm sure there was no plan to create any kind of genocide. What they wanted, and they were planning to replace the government, and they were thinking that the Ukrainian people would tolerate that. But now I think that the Russian government, Putin himself, is kind of cornered. So it is a very dangerous situation. So we cannot really predict, and you know that he mentioned this nuclear weapons, and there has been preparation for a nuclear strike, as far as we know. So it can become very dirty, and there is a need from the whole international community to very closely watch the developments there in order not to allow that to happen.
All right, Director of World Experience for Georgia, Murman Margvelashvili, thank you so much for joining us here on the program and sharing that analysis with us.
Thank you very much for having me.